Hello. Testing, 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 testing.
We are live.
Testing. Only say good things about Pat now.
Okay, welcome everybody. This morning we're going to hear a little bit more about the Good Samaritan Fund from three people that are very directly involved in the Good Samaritan Fund. And so I would ask you to all hold your questions this morning until all three of them have spoken. That way nobody will get shortchanged. Okay, so we're going to start with Paul Gillespie, and he's going to tell us about the Honduran Fund.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to start with a little history. Danny, hi. He knows more about this than I do, so feel free to correct me if I state things wrong. Our Honduras relationship started about 15 years ago. This whole thing started with the generous donation by Dick Braithwaite. He left a life insurance policy to the church to start a new international mission, someplace, somewhere, didn't care where, but here's the money to fund it. So there was a lot of research that was done, and we ended up zeroing in on Honduras. There was a lot of stuff going on down there. There was a missionary couple that was already down there, Tim and Gloria Wheeler. I think you've probably heard that name those names a number of times as we've talked about Honduras. Gloria is a native Honduran. Tim's married to her, obviously, and they've been down there, like I said, a long time. I think they've been in the field actually over 30 years. They're actually back in the United States now. They have a daughter in Pennsylvania, I think it is. And so they moved back there, but they still make trips down there, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. They're still very connected down in Honduras, but they're back in the States now. So how things got started is we sent a fact-finding trip down there. There were a few people who went down. Charles was on that trip. Dan Sweatman, who has kind of been the common theme through this entire thing, went down there. Our older daughter went down, and she was a Spanish major, had spent a lot of time in Costa Rica and Nicaragua, Spanish major, so she kind of acted as an interpreter as she made those trips as went down there. So they went down there, visited a lot of villages, went through a lot of places, met a lot of people, talked with Gloria and Tim, and that's when we zeroed in on Trinidad. So a little bit of, just real quick, Honduras here. Up here you have the Caribbean. So when you think about Central America and how it comes down and then goes like this, that notch is where Honduras is. So you got the Pacific Ocean over here, got Honduras here, Belize, I got to make sure I get mine right, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. So those are the countries that are surrounding it. Then the two major cities in Honduras are Tegucigalpa, which is the capital, and San Pedro Sula, which is up here. So see those two circles right there. In those two metropolitan areas, that's a third of the entire population of Honduras. So it's a big drop off once you get away from those two cities in Honduras. We typically fly into San Pedro Sula when we make our trips, and then there is a province in United States terms, a state called Copan. That's this highlighted area over here on the very western edge of Honduras. It is on the border with Guatemala. It's up in the mountains. It's a coffee growing region, and Trinidad is located in Copan, the state of Copan over here. So that's kind of how it lays out. You hear a lot of some of the potential unrest in there has been over the years and that sort of thing in Honduras. Not over here. That's happening in the major metropolitan areas. We stay away from there. Typically are not even close to those except for flying in. You fly in, someone meets us at the airport, we're in a van, and 2 hours later, we're over in Trinidad. So that's kind of how that fits in. So when they went down there to visit, and like I said, they zeroed in on the city of Trinidad. There were building projects started. This was kind of a idea by Tim and Gloria that what they wanted to do was help people to build houses. And by doing this, it raises their quality of life through better hygiene, through having a floor. I mean, some of the places some of the people live in, it's these pieces of wood and mud, and they're bug infested, and the roof is falling down. And by building these houses out of brick with a tin roof, it brings up the hygiene, it brings up the quality of life, it brings up their health. But the other thing that they do is when they build these houses, they're projects in a given area, and they're maybe going to build 15 houses. But everybody builds the houses together in that community. They help each other build the house, and they don't move into their houses till all the houses are done. So they work together in getting the houses done, and if somebody is rich or whatever the case, its liver has more money or theirs gets done first, everybody gets to move in together. So this is the idea of building community and working together so that they can begin to work together to make their lives better. So that would help them build. The problem in building houses down there is not a shortage of labor or know-how. The people know how to build these houses. They know how to make them and make them do it and all that. The problem is having the money for materials. They make their own bricks, so it's not like they're going out and buying the bricks. As you've maybe seen in some of the pictures, you'll see people and there's this big pile of sand and all the stuff to make it and dumping on water. They're making their own bricks, making their own stuff to put in and mount the bricks to put them in place. The forms are there. All that is done with raw materials. So it's a matter of they need the money to buy the raw materials to make bricks, to make the stuff to put it all together, and then the roofing, which is typically a corrugated roofing. But you can build a house for about $2,200. So this is not an expensive endeavor in our terms. It's a very expensive endeavor in their terms. And so that's where we can come to the fore and help out is with the money to be able to buy the materials. Typically a room or a house is about 4 rooms. Each room is about 8 by 10, something like that. There's window openings, but they're not windows. There's door openings, no doors. Those can be added later if the people find that the money to do that. But it does get a roof over the head. It keeps the bugs out. It brings the cleanliness. It really improves the quality of life. So we began sending teams down, and until COVID, we were sending a team down every year, sometimes 2. When we go down, though, it's not really the work that we're doing that helps them get along, that gets things going. It is the relationships that we're building when we go down there. Sometimes the group is as small as just 4 or 5. Sometimes it's 10 or 12. But we're only there for a week. What we're there is to provide help for them, for hope for them, to provide the money for the materials, to build the relationships, to help them know that there are people someplace else who care about them and that they want to help them have a better life and a better quality of life. So it's not so much the work that we're doing when we're down there, it is the relationships that we're building and helping them build a better life. So as we had made some trips down there, we also became aware of the need for education. And that's really the second prong of what we do down there. School is free to attend school, except you need a uniform. You need all the supplies and books and stuff to attend. And so there's a scholarship fund that's been also established where we donate money, and it's $125 for a kid to attend a school for a year. Not a lot by our terms, a lot by their terms, especially when you potentially, as some of the kids get older, are taking time away from jobs that they could be doing someplace else and making money for the household. So having them being able to not have to put out the money for this actually allows them to be able to attend school. So we're funding 15 right now, right? 15 scholarships right now. We send the money down. There's a committee down there that actually then looks at what kids need the money, what kids won't attend if they don't, and they're the ones that give out the money. We're not doing anything like that, trying to do this from 3,000 miles away or how many ever miles it is. There's a local committee that knows the families, that knows the kids, and so is making the determination of who gets those dollars so the kids can attend school. About 5 years ago, there was a question about, well, has this program run its course? Or should we be done? You know, what's going on? Is there interest waning in that? And so a small group went down there on one of the annual trips, but had a second thing to look at, which was, should we continue this? And the easiest way for me to talk about it was what we wrote up in the annual report from for the Honduras team that year. After working each day, the group had devotionals and then lots of discussion covering many topics, including where FPC should go from here with our Honduran participation. To summarize the discussion, presence was the key word that kept coming up. Presence builds community, both with those and the group that they come in contact with and within FPC. It is important just to be there. But FPC also has a lot to learn from the Hondurans. And when it comes to community, to use Tim Wheeler's words, our presence brings silent hope. Just showing we care helps keep the Hondurans moving. So we came back with a resounding yes, and that's kind of where we are today. With that, the Honduras Vision Team was formed to say, how do we keep this thing going and where are we going? We are a team of session. We don't fall underneath one of the other pieces of the church. We report directly to session, and we are funded by the Good Samaritan Fund. The 10% that's in the Good Samaritan Fund, 0.5% of that is designated directly to the Honduran Vision Team for us to be able to send trips and send the education and do those sorts of things. The trips, that's where you see some of the fundraising. People do pay their own way down from a transportation standpoint, and then the monies that comes through that pays for when the team is down there. So the food and lodging and transportation and those sorts of things is paid for by the monies that everyone donates to the church, to the Good Samaritan Fund, and then that's what pays for our time down there. Let's see. When we formed the vision team, we actually came up with our own vision statement. And a piece of it says, First Presbyterian Church seeks to come alongside our brothers and sisters in Honduras, physically and spiritually, as the visible face of Christ shines through to each other. Our vision is to create and implement plans that build upon the Honduran relationships that have been established. This includes a continued presence in Honduras through physical visits, as well as financial and prayer support of programs that improve the lives of our Honduran brothers and sisters. So that is kind of where we are today. We actually had a small trip planned for next month. It's on hold right now. They just had elections, and there's a new mayor, and so there's at least since I've been involved, has Orlando been has been the mayor the whole time? So the whole time that we've been involved, there's the same guy, Orlando, who's been the mayor, very supportive, all for this. This was partially his idea of where we needed to go. And so there's a new mayor. There's question of who the decision makers are now in the government down there. There's a want for housing for everybody, but the philosophy of building in community, we're not sure where that is. Tim and Gloria are going down in 2 weeks, I think it is, so they'll be able to find out a little bit more of what's going on and how that's going to work. There's no lack of projects down there, so we'll be in contact with Tim and Gloria to stay on that and see what's going on. We are going to continue. There is much need down there. There are other places where houses are being built. I know Denny spent one of his trips going to some other locations and looking at possible locations for that. So I would end with, if you're interested in going on a trip, feel free to talk to myself, talk to Denny. Denny has been on a half dozen of these trips. Earl Kemp has been on a half dozen of these trips. They know a lot about what's going on. Talk to Nate if you have some interest there. He'd be glad to talk to you. I would end with saying that if you're concerned about going, we're glad to speak those too, but I would say that you'll learn a lot more than what you probably actually give to them. There's a lot to learn from our brothers and sisters down there. The three things that I came back with from that was amazed with the love that they shared with each other in their community and with us, the way they cared for us, the way they wanted to take care of us, giving away things that they don't really have and can't afford to, but just being that generous with us. They taught us how to live in community. I mean, there's a lot of that to learn, of the way that they work together, the way that they live together, the way they make decisions together. We have a lot to learn there, and how to live in a grateful manner. We're so blessed here, and with everything that we've got. They have so much less than we do, and yet they're leading grateful lives for what they have and living together in what they do. So I'll open up to questions after the other ladies have a chance to have their time.
I don't know who's going first, but Kathy Newcomb is going. She's going first. She's going to talk about our neighborhood care.
Excellent. Excellent. Here is a great place to be. Excellent. I am here today as a representative of Deacons, but also even more so a part of the Deacons as a part of the neighborhood care team, which is another of the groups that are funded out of the neighborhood, or out of the Good Sam Fund. The neighborhood care team also is part of the Deacons, which is an ordained body that also reports directly to session. I'm in my 6th year of being a deacon, and when I started 6 years ago, I had never been a deacon. Just like many people come in, and I said, yes, I will be a deacon. Now, what does that mean? And what do y'all do? And so when I began as a deacon, I learned that the duties of deacons, as it was when I joined, their duties included serving communion, doing hospital visits on the weekends, which gives our pastors a little break. They do during the week, and then the deacons kind of fill in on the weekends. But mostly, if you ask someone what deacons did, they would say, we did event planning and serving. We did meals, we did fellowship. Maundy, Thursday, Fall Festival. We assisted with events like the Super Bowl of Caring, and we did a lot of Young at Heart gatherings, events for maybe our older members. None of you guys, but those other people. We did an occasional emergency needs for congregation members, and then of course we were the angel tree people. When I came on to Deacons, again, not knowing what we did, I did a lot of sitting and listening about, what it is we did. I came from a long history of being on the children's ministry team, so I was accustomed to being on teams and listening to reports and talking about the budget, and I was really trained in asking questions like, what is our goal here? There are many ways to approach something, but what is our main goal, and are we doing that? And so when I came on to Deacons, I really asked what our goals were, and are we doing that? So I went back to our responsibilities in the Book of Order. It is the duty of deacons, first of all, to minister to those who are in need, to the sick, to the friendless, and to any who may be in distress, both within and beyond the community of faith. They shall assume such other duties as may be delegated to them from time to time by session, such as leading the people in worship through prayers of intercession, reading the scripture, presenting the gifts of the people, and assisting with the Lord's Supper. We did all of that really well, but I really focused on and started asking, because we did all of that really well inside our church. We did really well fellowshipping. We did really well visiting our church members. We did really well serving communion. We did all that really good. But I really picked out it is the duty of the deacons, first of all, to minister to those who are in need, to the sick, to the friendless, and to any who may be in distress, both within and beyond the community of faith. So again, when I asked what our goals were as deacons, are we fulfilling our duties as in the Book of Order? And some of you who know me know I'm not really about the rules and regulations. Not that I don't, well, I may not follow them, we'll just go there. But I certainly don't take time to process them and really get into the words, but I'm trying to be better, and this is part of my journey. What also struck me in my first year of absorbing what deacons do was that this ordained group who is in charge of our congregation, the duty of the deacons to minister to those who are in need, did not have a budget. We had no money. I mean, the kids had money, the youth had money, mission team had money. We had no money, but we were being asked to do the duties of the deacons with no money. So I asked the question, where does the money come from? That's a good question. We needed to go to other teams for any kind of funding request. We went to the mission team when we had mission-related items. We went to membership when we did meals and stuff. And then we worked a lot on Epiphany Funds. And Epiphany Funds are those funds that were there if someone had, I have this great idea that I just thought of. And so we kind of scrimped and scraped and did what we did, and did it well. Because we are a group of thrifty people. We can make things work on a very tiny budget because that's what we were trained to do. And we are always called to be good stewards of our resources. But our concerns were then brought to session to say, hey, if we keep being asked to do more and more of the helping out our needs of our congregation in that, we need some funding. You know, why is it that we don't have a line item, a budget item? And so the session really went, that is a good point. And so the following year, we ended up with a budget. And so now we have funds. And our budget for Deacons is comprised of a general fund for fellowship and congregational care kind of budgeting needs. And then the neighborhood care is funded out of the Good Sam Fund. Thus, the Deacons were then kind of realigned into 3 different teams: fellowship, congregational care, and the newly formed neighborhood care teams. I have been involved in the neighborhood care team since the beginning, mostly because when you start talking about things and being a good supporter of it, they go, hey, you should be in charge of that. And so I do have a passion for serving and serving outside of these walls. So the mission statement of the neighborhood care team is, of course, based on the parable of the Good Samaritan. Which of the 3 became a neighbor to the man attacked by robbers? The one who treated him kindly. Jesus tells us to go and do the same. Luke 10:36-37, kind of paraphrased. The neighborhood care team's goal is connecting and collaborating the congregation's desire to serve. Connecting and collaborating the congregation's desire to serve. And I say that because neighborhood care team is not the group in First Presbyterian Church that does all the serving. It is not just the deacons who are doing the work of our church. And I'll get back to that. With the dedicated funding source now, the neighborhood is based off of monthly giving. We've talked about that last week, about how that works. We could move from that scarcity giving model to one of radical hospitality. And in my 5 years of following for Deacons, that has been kind of one of my stock phrases. We are going to work with a mentality of radical hospitality. And that goes back to that Good Samaritan parable. The Good Samaritans didn't, after recognizing the man on the side of the road, took him to be put up, cared for, and said, hey, innkeeper, care for this guy, and if you need anything more, I got you. He didn't say, well, give me a call and let me know what it is, and I'll see if I can scrape up some money for that, or if we can find another funding source for that. Radical hospitality. I'm going to do what I think is right and then go beyond. That has become one of those growth opportunities for us on the neighborhood care team, because a lot of us have come from not only the scarcity model, of being very frugal with our money because we don't have any, but also because a lot of our team members come from a nonprofit industry that must scrape for funding and thus approach generosity by stopping at the fact that, hey, well, look, we can help. We are doing so good because we can help you. And here's what we can give you. We're gonna kind of piece out a little portion here and a little portion here, but look at us. We're helping. We are learning that not only can we help, but we can help in big ways. I am not saying that we are not fiscally responsible with our funding. I am saying that we are not to store up grains and funds for someday. Someday we may have a bigger need. We may have someone that is more worthy. We are trying to move against that innate, natural kind of sense that we have. We are working with projects and giving opportunities that make someone go, wow. That's really my goal when I go in to purchase items for an event, to make someone at Walmart go, you want how many? Yes, I need 450 water bottles, please. This display right here, do you got more, or do you want me to exhaust your whole display here? Because I would like a pallet. Do you have a pallet? I would like a pallet. That's what I'm talking about. Again, that same idea of, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's a drop in the bucket doesn't sound right. But that idea that we are a generous congregation, we are giving and continue to give. That funding source replenishes every month. So when we give it out, the next month, you guys are putting it right back in. So if we are that generous congregation that keeps putting it right back in, what are we saving it for? I mean, don't be frivolous, but let's be generous. Let's blow someone's mind to say, you are doing this for me? Why would you do that? I want that traveler on the side of the road of why would you stop? Why would you help me? And why would you put me up in the nice hotel and keep buying me food? So what kind of projects does neighborhood care team work on? The Blessing Box, which is out front, originated as a neighborhood care team project. We have helped with Corona Help Sioux Falls at the very beginning of the pandemic to buy and provide masks for local agencies like the Bishop Dudley House and Union Gospel Mission. We have provided funding for the Angel Lunch program at various middle schools. So when someone ran out of lunch funds, instead of requiring a student to have a cheese sandwich and be set apart from the other students, we paid money into that lunch fund so that they could have a standard lunch with everybody else. And we would continue to have done that, but the lunch funding changed due to COVID, so there's a lot more funding available for that now. We paid for translation services for communication efforts during COVID. A lot of the information about COVID was being put out in English. If you don't know this, we have more than English-speaking neighbors here in Sioux Falls, and not just Spanish, too. Some unique dialects that require some individualized translation. So we worked with the Multicultural Center to pay the translators to translate that into languages that our neighbors could understand, and thus be equipped with the information that they needed. We have partnered with Verna ID for vehicle purchases for cancer patients, and for the Church on the Street van. That was one of my initial think big people. When Church on the Street came here to give a presentation, they listed all the things on the bulletin board or on the whiteboard that they wanted. And it was things like socks and chapstick and batteries and stuff. And so my question to, at the time, Rebel Herd was, what's your big ask? If you could dream big, what would you ask for? And she was like, well, we could use a van. If we had a van, that's my really big dream, that I want to find a van. I'm like, well, done. Well, we're going to work on that. Did that mean that Neighborhood Care Team used all of its funds to buy a van? No. But we did partner with Verna ID, who provided the van, and we provided the gas cards. But that is the community that we're talking about, is that we have some resources and we're able to partner with some people. Does that mean that every ask that we say, well, who else really could buy winter gear for someone? That agency over there, they do coats. We have a warm up Sioux Falls thing, they do coats, so we should really send them over there. We can, but we are one of those agencies too. Use us. We can be your first choice. We can be your last choice when someone says, I have nowhere else to go and I've run out of ideas. Neighborhood Care Team, would you be able to help? It could be your first choice. Ooh, I have patients, one of our congregation members said, I have patients that come into my clinic that are having a hard time getting there. Is there something you guys can do? We're like, yeah, we buy bus passes all the time to hand out at local agencies and give to police officers that need to hand out bus passes to people they come in contact with. Here's a stack of bus passes. A stack. Radical hospitality. Give those away. When you need more, you just let us know. We have helped stock nearby area food pantries and coat closets and warm weather gear for veterans. We've purchased the supply for car care packs and help fund meals that go with, that are provided through the Laundry with Love. Why do I mention those? I mention those because, again, it's not just Neighborhood Care Team providing funds or purchasing the items. Those two, the car care packs and the Laundry with Love, may be kind of funded out of Neighborhood Care Team, but that is our congregation getting hold of an idea and running with it to say, hey, we need to do this. My group here, my Bible study group, my youth group, whatever it is that you are a part of that says, hey, we have an idea of how we can be the hands and feet we want to go with this, and we want to empower you to go out and do that. Where you see a need, be the person that fills that need. So Neighborhood Care Team tries to embody and consider Pat Hammond's Doctor of Ministry philosophy of being with, not doing for. And Paul kind of alluded to that fact too, about we want to be in community with people. We want to listen with and walk alongside. So when we help out our local schools and that, it's not just a matter of, hey, we think you need help with X, and we're gonna send you a check. We have been in communication and have been developing relationships with the principals, with the social workers there to say, okay, we have an idea, but what is it you specifically need? And it is incredible. In conversation, we find out, well, this school handles things this way, and they live, or their school is right around the corner from a Walmart, and it's best if they have small denomination Walmart gift cards so that when a need arises, they too can be specific about the need, not just have generic stuff available in case. They go out and listen to the specific need of their student and take care of that. This school over here said, nope, it's just better if we have funds available and we have staff members that can take care of that. Okay, those are two different ways of doing that, but we're listening and not just doing what we think is best for an organization. Sometimes it's best to provide a frozen meal out of the giving room. Sometimes it's best to give someone all of the area resources about where to pick up food, like our Feeding South Dakota distribution, one Saturday a month. Sometimes, in conversation with the person in need, it's fast food gift cards. Those all provide a different level of support. Is it always a home-cooked meal? No. It's finding out what's best for each person. And so what I'm gonna leave you with is, what does this mean to you? It means keep your eyes out. It means pay attention to the needs around you. Do you see a need? Bring it to us. Because what I said to someone recently is, they're like, well, other people can do these kinds of things, and I don't want to bring all of my needs to neighborhood care. And I said, why not? Why are you not bringing these needs? So use your resources. It's your money anyways. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. That was really good. And now we have Carol Walter. Are you going to use this too, Carol? Yep. Okay, good. Carol's going to talk about other missions, local missions.
I don't normally need this because I'm a mom of 4 kids, so usually people can hear me, but lots of practice. As Sally said, I am here on behalf of the mission team, and probably there are a lot of people that have a lot more experience on this for this team than I do, but I was elected and in town and available. So we get the bulk of the Good Samaritan distribution and kind of try to keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on in terms of missions with the Honduras team and with neighborhood care. I'm also on the board of Deacons. I did I did 6 years of Deacons back in the 90s, I believe it was, and it's changed a lot, but I've also been in the workforce 50 years this year, and all but 2 of those years have been in the nonprofit world. So missions is really part of my DNA, and I just feel so blessed that God has enabled me to serve Him in so many ways within this community, and I just feel a responsibility to continue connecting. When I did my spiritual gifts study, I always thought my gift was to be an encourager, and I was very surprised when I got to the end to find out my gift is to connect resources, whether that's money to needs or people to people or agents. Anyway, so I'm always connecting. And anyway, local missions, and I don't have a long presentation or the mission team. I started out getting involved on missions when I was with local missions back under the old structure of Deacons. Then when I got off Deacons, I continued, they structured it that the different agencies that we supported, they asked us if we wanted to be liaisons. And at that time, I was working at Gloria House, which is one of the local mission the local agencies that we were supporting. So I was the liaison to missions for Gloria House. And then when local missions and global missions combined, I just stayed on as a member of the mission team. So I'm probably the longest mission team member that we have. Anyway, I'm going to just be brief. Last week, John talked about how missions had this big surplus. So I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of how that's not the case now. So far, as of the most current financial report I have is so far this year, the receipts for the mission from the Good Samaritan Mission Fund so far this year were $33,250. Our disbursements are $31,500. So we do not have the big surplus. We are using the Good Samaritan Fund for what it is designated for. How we work, and through the years, things have evolved. You remember some of you were part of Dive-In Day. We used to have that one day where we would go out and not only financially support these agencies, but we would go with our talents and go do work projects. So we've done those, and we still would, but now it's about every 3 years we send out an assessment to local nonprofits, the ones that we're supporting and the ones that we potentially could support, and ask them to provide us with certain information, which I'm going to go into here in a minute. But I'm first of all going to list the ones that we're currently supporting. Quarterly, we support Family Connection, we support Gloria House, we support Habitat for Humanity, Salvation Army, Lunches Served, the Multicultural Center, Family Visitation Center, and the Presbytery Missions. Now, we send out this survey and ask them to provide us the name, a contact name, their email address, their website address, their mission statement. We ask them to share with us what services they provide, who their target population to serve is, how many individuals were directly impacted by their services in the preceding year, any volunteer needs that they have that we could assist with, any in-kind giving needs that they would have that we could assist with, what their current reserve is, what their expected full year expenses are, and then their source of funding, how much of what percentage comes from direct public support, special events, are they a United Way agency, do they have contract revenue, client fees, grants, and any other pertinent information that they would like to share with us. We send it to those, we will send that, and we're going to be doing that again this year. We send it to the ones that we are supporting, and then you will see an announcement in the Know and probably and in the Messenger asking you to give us suggestions for who else you want us to contact. So please pay attention to that, because there will be agencies that you're either working for or you're volunteering or you know of, and that you would like us to reach out to consider at becoming an agency that we support, not only with our volunteer efforts, but also quarterly throughout the year. And we only do this like every, on a 3-year basis, because we feel like, we want to give them some time to get some traction with with our support, and a time for us to get to know them and get some feedback from them on what difference, what impact we're making. And it's like when you see those announcements come, we can't know who you want us to we can't possibly be aware of all the agencies in the community. There's a ton of nonprofits in this community doing really good work, and we can't possibly know all of them. So when we put out that plea for feedback on who you would like us to send out that survey to, please give us those names, and if possible, phone numbers or addresses or email addresses, because we really need your input. It's like when we put out and in a few weeks, we're going to be asking for anybody who has college students, because before Christmas reached out to the college students that we had names and addresses for, and we only got 10. And you all signed cards, and we sent them cards with gift cards, and got great feedback. And we're going to be contacting those 10 again, but we know there's more. So when we ask for your college student names, give us those so that we can reach out to them. I just can't stress enough, when you see those please go out, please respond. But I don't know if I'm going to leave some time, because I know you have other questions, but we meet monthly. And the other thing is we also select the children's offering, and we try to do a blend of local, and because we're a global and local missions team combined, we try to consider a mix of global. Some months it's local, global, but not always. And so we consider needs that we can meet, and the phenomenal lessons that the children's offering are teaching our kids are powerful. So with that, I'll leave plenty of time for questions.
Thank you so much, Carol. Can you hear me? Can you hear? Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah, you can. Okay, well, this is just powerful. We've learned so much, haven't we? It's great. And now we'll open it to questions, if you have any questions for these three. Joe?
This is more just a question or a comment. It's good to share what we're doing in this church with our family and friends as well. I have a family member who is actually from the Denver area who happened to be on the board of trustees for the estate of Helen Myers, who was the founder of Bristol Myers. And they had money they were looking to give away. And she wasn't so much concerned about the construction that we were doing in Honduras, but what really caught their attention was the fact that we were trying to provide educational scholarships. She went back to her board of trustees and was able to get us $7,500 that went specifically to this education fund. So my advice to all of you is talk up what we're doing with family and friends, because you never know what connections they might have for giving us some additional funds to do what we're doing. So.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, next week we are going to have somebody talk about congregational care and the fellowship team also. Do we have a question?
No,
Pat.
I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On behalf of the youth, when you all are done.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to tell you to all be sure to come back next week, because we've been hearing all about the outreach today, and next week we're going to hear about what we're doing within our own congregation to care for people. So, okay, Pat, thank you.
Okay, so the youth have been knocking at our door and have asked me to remind you that the pancake breakfast thing is going on, and that money will be used for mission. And also the raffle is going on. So if you haven't been down there yet, they would appreciate you coming on down and being part of that. So I'm just the messenger.